Hey, everybody. My name's Tony Cardenas, and this is the Indy Real Estate Market Weekly Update. Today, I'm sitting here with Greg Cooper from Compass Real Estate, Kyle Morris with FC Tucker, and a couple of our other agents are out right now. Justin's in Spain. We can't talk to him today. Hey, Greg, how's it going?
Hello, Tony.
Stop. I almost want to start all over, but I'm not going to.
We're not going. No, because ladies and gentlemen,
I like it. Sets the mood.
We just like to throw him off a little. If you just see, I wanted to start up and start dancing during the music at the beginning, but I knew it would just throw the whole thing into the gutter. So we're going to proceed. I just had a little something for you there, Tony.
Well, you threw me there a little bit, Greg. Kyle, how you doing today?
We're going to take it slow today.
Okay.
Just like coffee talk. You know? I'm doing good. It's a little bit cold outside. It's still decent golfing weather, but it's dropped quite a bit in the past week.
I feel like I should have some esoteric Van Morrison song playing. You know, like Into the Mystic should be playing because we're doing this low late night DJ vibe.
Okay, well, not with me.
Turn the lights down low.
I almost can't talk. But hey, I want to get into a little bit of I'm going to talk about some national headlines, but we're going to get them down to the Indianapolis, Hamilton County market. One thing I would like to, before we go through the stats for Hamilton County, we're only going to do Hamilton County this week, okay? We'll do Indy next week. Justin's out of town. He does a lot of the marketing for the Indianapolis market, Broad Ripple, and Meridian Kessler, downtown Mass Avenue, Fletcher Place.
Yep, Shelly's on vacay. Yep.
Right. I want to talk about the new home sales rebound, but home builders aren't smiling. And Greg, I want to piggyback what we talked about last week, that your email box is blowing up from builders now. And for the last year and a half to 2 years, you didn't get an email.
Right. I mean, just before you pushed the record button here, Kyle and I were talking, we weren't getting any emails. People just wanted, they just said, it's like, come in and sign the contracts. Yeah. And now the incentivizations are growing. Builders who had kind of kicked realtors to the curb a little bit are now recognizing that they might be kind of important in this process.
And they did reduce some of the commissions to real estate agents.
A great deal. Look, I kind of understand that. It didn't make me happy, but I kind of get it. If builders, if there's so many people flooding in their front door every day that they don't really have to have the realtor assistance, I understand that. Of course, I want to do this well because I get paid to do this well with a builder.
Absolutely.
But now they need us, and we need them, and so it's a partnership that I think will continue to flourish.
Well, and some of the interesting piece about that too, as well, is like so last year, if you were kind of bickering over some of the things that you didn't like with the build process, et cetera, and you got a little bit too heated, a little bit too volatile, builders would just walk in a heartbeat. And you have a little bit more leverage to get it exactly the way you want it, and you can be a little bit pickier about it to get the build quality that you want because it's a major purchase.
And a year ago or 6 months ago, they could just rip the contract up and sell it to somebody else for
and
more.
Just walk, and they'd make more money because it's 4 months later.
So if you squawked in March, you might be out of a deal, but now they're going to do whatever they can do to keep you around because they need you.
Yep, 100%. So it's just really interesting the way. So they need us. We're just an advocate for our buyers or whatever it may be. But at the same time, like incentives are coming back. They're reaching out to us a lot more. Do you have a buyer for the spec home? Because they barely even hit the market before. They'd go into a model home and they'd be like, well, if you don't have time for the build, they would just go ahead and sell you a spec home that they were already almost done with.
Here's the consumer facing side of that particular phenomenon. The fact is, they need you.
Yes.
And before they had so many people, they didn't have time for you. And in some instances, that's not meant to be mean. It's just that they had so many people standing in their lobbies, and it means consumers, you might be able to negotiate now.
Right.
It doesn't mean you're going to get $50,000 off the price of a new build.
Oh, no.
No.
But it might mean you can get some builder-based incentivization, some add-on amenities and things of that nature for your home.
That's some builders, not all builders. Correct. Here in the Indianapolis, Hamilton County metro area. Well, okay, we talked about the builders a little bit, and I do agree with what you said there, Greg. It was all business for the builders and everybody to get it done. But let's talk about a little bit of some of these national trends that I don't like. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's happening in our area, because I think our area is in really good shape for the Indianapolis and Hamilton County market. They're talking about a housing correction. And I want to kind of dig into this a little bit. You may not make 6 or 7% on your house last year like people did, or even more than that. You might make 0 next year, but the following year you're going to play catch up, and you could make 6, 7, 8%
appreciation.
Am I kind of right on that?
So listen, this is the big red flag we got to wave in front of everybody who's listening to this in the local central Indiana housing market.
Absolutely.
Pay no attention to national headlines, because they are largely reflective of the largest media markets, which are on the coasts.
Correct.
The coasts are suffering right now because they were much higher priced to begin with, so their pricing is generally more volatile than ours is here. Indianapolis has a flattening of appreciation. We are not going down. We're leveling off is probably the best way. And you know what? I get that we're the real estate professionals, and so you would expect us to say that, but the data supports that. I mean, New York and San Francisco are getting clobbered, as are a number of other places that are high-profile coastal markets. We are not getting clobbered. We're slowing our growth of appreciation.
Well, and I don't think it doesn't impact us the way people project that it does. Right. Honestly, I need more affordable housing in the marketplace, right? Like, I mean, I serve the broad population. I serve everybody from like a $50,000 house to $2 million house, right? And so even when I was doing the numbers this week, I saw stuff in Noblesville, and I was actually really excited because I saw 4 houses pinned over that were less than 200, right? And like we're dying for that stuff right now.
That stuff was non-existent.
It wasn't
for 6 months,
because
maybe
they were
a year and
pushing
6 months. Yeah.
Because it'd be like a 170 house, and they'd be like, "Well, let's throw 200 out," and they'd still get it, right? And so, like for me, like I'm happy for the broad consumer base, and that includes the sellers, right? Because the other problem we had with sellers last year is sellers didn't want to sell because they couldn't buy a place.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Where am I going to go, Greg?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly right. And what's doing it now is that we're getting it seems to me we got really good inventory out here for buyers to choose from. Okay.
It's better.
It's still low for sure. I mean,
Right.
I mean, when I'm looking at
But
the numbers,
also at the
they're
same
low,
time, we have interest rates that have climbed, and they're not the worst I've ever seen for the amount of years I've been in the business. But the 30-year conforming right now, you're talking about 6.725 on a 30-year fix. Not bad. You can buy that rate down. If you were to buy that rate down on an average right now at a point, you would probably be at 6.5, maybe 6.375, subject to the credit score and loan to value.
So let's translate that for the consumer. Here's what we're talking about here. Let's just say you're going to sell your house and you want to take a step to incentivize a buyer. If you're a home seller, you want to incentivize a buyer to come look at your place and maybe be the potential purchaser. Here's the thought.
You're talking about the listing now.
I'm talking about the listing. If you're a seller, maybe you offer to buy the buyer's interest rate down 1 point. Because guess what? Almost nobody's doing it.
Right. I know.
And your house is going to get, I mean, you go on Zillow or realtor.com and see, hey, I'm going to buy your mortgage rate down a point. Man, you're going to get some attention. And that's roughly going to be, not exactly, and it's credit score dependent and a whole bunch of, it's going to be about a 0.5 point difference for a buyer, give or take. It's look, we're talking broadly here, so we got to just give it the broad sense. The bottom line is, that's going to get some attention.
Which would you rather see, that or a $5,000 carpet allowance?
I'd rather see a 1 point buy down on my mortgage rate.
Exactly.
Obviously subject to the credit score and loan to value.
And let's be clear about what a point means. That does not mean you're buying it down from 6.5 to 5.5.
No.
It means you're paying 1 mortgage rate point, which is about 1%, roughly, give or take. So if you got a $500,000 house, the seller's contributing $5,000, and you're going to be roughly, depending on credit score, you're going to be roughly about a half a percentage.
3/4.
Hold on.
3/8
to a half. 3/8 to a half of your mortgage rate lower.
Yep. And the interesting thing
is, you're
is,
right, Greg. That makes a lot of sense for a person listing a house.
To actually explain it, I mean, we talk about incentives, and this is just where we are in the marketplace, and sellers are have pivoted on it, like this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to sell the house, and I would rather do this than sit on the market, as we were talking before we got on the air here about, if you're not selling in the first 20 days, you're sitting for a significant amount of time. I'd rather buy somebody's rate down
because that's forever,
or
however long they're gonna keep that mortgage. I mean, 0.5 point is a lot of money for people.
And would you rather do that at the beginning for like $5,000-7,000 or lose 20 off your listing price because you sat?
So got to understand the mechanics,
right? It's risk reward, right? But those are conversations we've talked a lot about educating the buyers over the past year, but we've really focused on educating the sellers in the past. I don't know, since beginning of July, we started picking up on this way ahead of it. But the biggest thing we have with the rates, people know that these are not the highest rates we've ever had.
Oh, heck no.
What scares people is not knowing when change stops, right? Like change it's never about the immediate change. It's about, okay, well, if they're here now, are they going to be 10 this time next year, right? And that's what really freaks people out. And then they get into paralysis by analysis, and it keeps people from actually doing what they could do to be a beneficial situation for them.
That's right.
Because as a buyer right now, you're in a great spot.
Yep.
And as a seller, you're in a great spot because your house has appreciated so much over the previous 2 years. But we're looking at it in this microcosm of like the past 6 weeks and making decisions.
There you go. But the one thing about rates, and I'll end it at this, when you got a rate on an average of 6.725% and you do buy it down, you could get it down to, let's say, 3/8 below that. The bottom line is this. I'm always going to say this on every show. Marry the house and date the rate, because you know what? 3.5 years, 4.5 years from now, you could refinance that thing to whatever the current rate is, go to a 20, and you have really made a big equity position in your payment and a lower rate.
And so I'll step on a limb and say it because I think the Federal Reserve has gone too far. And now we know that those are not direct influences on home mortgage rates, but they are psychological influence on home mortgage rates.
Absolutely, they are.
I think the Fed has gone too far. They've waited too long. And I think 18 to 24 months from now, they're going to go the other way.
I think you should run for Congress. I'd vote for you.
They'll never get no one would vote for me saying stuff like that because they don't.
Right.
Because the federal officials don't want to hear me say stuff like that.
No, they don't. No,
and these rates that we're talking about are averages, and they're off the internet. And we look at bank rate and other local lenders. So you can look up the same stuff that we're looking up too. This was last updated this morning.
The interesting thing, though, real quick to that. So everybody can look up this stuff. They can look up these articles and stuff
Better
like
look
that.
it up the right way, though.
Well, it's not just that. Like, just talk to a professional because, we were talking about it's. You got to know what information is there to digest, because if you're not reading it correctly, you can make a lot out of the numbers that are just portrayed in a certain way, and there's two sides to it. And I'm not trying to say that as a salesman. I'm just trying to get people at a baseline to actually understand what we're reading. That's all.
National headlines are clickbait. Don't forget it. If you want to know what in the world is the truth, get somebody who is experienced in your local market to tell you, because that's the only way you're going to get it right. I mean, the headlines are dire nationally right now, and that's because those sell.
Yeah,
those
and
click.
It's so acute. It's so finite. I mean, it's literally house specific, neighborhood specific.
Totally.
It's area specific. It's development specific. Like, what else is going on in that area to be developed for future growth? Like, there's just so much that goes into it.
Well, you're exactly right, Greg. Tell the story real quick, not the person's name, about the $500,000 home last week in Carmel.
Yeah, it was a home that was listed at $540,000, and it was perfect. I mean, it was updated everywhere. Mechanicals, decor, great outside, all of it. It's $540,000. It sold at $590,000.
Yep.
And now, so anybody that says that those days are over, now that's one house out of 10. That's not 3 or 4 or 5 houses out of 10.
But it doesn't mean non-existent.
Correct. It's still going on because cash doesn't care about high mortgage rates.
Oh, no, not at all.
I mean, it's uninfluenced by it.
How much did it go over for?
$50,000 over list, 10%.
That was last week.
So
the perfect house
it's because and it also fell into a place where it was a house that was desirable. It was essentially an empty nester home. So young professionals wanted it, downsizers. I mean, there was all these people.
Multiple niches were coming out.
Yeah, multiple buyer pools were heading toward it. It's so interesting. I got an email this morning as we're recording this from NBC News. She found me off of a hashtag on a TikTok video. Go figure. I mean, that's where this comes from.
Was it hashtag go figure?
It was hashtag home buying tips.
Yeah,
and
gotcha.
she found my website through home buying, hashtag home buying tips.
Everybody will be stealing that hashtag.
Go
Thank
for
you,
it.
Greg.
I mean, no, I don't care. I know it. But I just called her and had a lovely conversation. She's looking to talk to home buyers who've walked away from transactions because of interest rates, or who have scaled back what they're looking for, and those are a lot of people right now. So that there's where the media's attention is focused right now.
Which is interesting too. So, not just have they scaled back, we've lost buyers.
Oh yeah,
right? People who are
out.
qualified, right? And then that pivots into, we haven't done a show on this in a couple months, and we should probably revisit it about the rental market and what's going on with the rental market.
Oh, yeah.
The rental market is a far bigger catastrophe than the home selling market ever. It's a disaster for renters right now.
Yep,
it is too, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, but
hey, Tony, why don't we talk about some data?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. Hey, okay, first.
Or I could say it like this: Hey, Tony, let's talk data.
No, we're not talking data.
Let's do the numbers. I feel like we're getting ready to do the weather report.
Well, hey, let me interject this real quick. This is just a brief pause. If anybody on this show would like to contact Greg Cooper or Kyle or Shelly or Justin Griffith on the show, we do have a new phone number, 317-480-4115. That's 317-480-4115. And that's what I wanted everybody to know. You can leave a message there, and I will get it to everybody. I'll send it to you, and they can ask the question away. But go ahead. Let's get back into
real
the
quick on
data.
that, though. So 2 weeks ago, I said, I was like, feel free to prank me. You know what I mean? With my phone number.
We're not doing that.
I got 2 pranks.
There you go.
It was amazing. I actually loved it.
I always jokingly say, call me from midnight to 6 a.m., and some people do text me then.
Well, the new number is 317-480-4115, at least for the show. Okay, let's get into some data with you, Kyle, first, and then we'll end it up with Greg, because Greg's got to go to a listing appointment.
All right. So for Fishers, we had 30 total go on the market last week, anywhere from $220,000 to $850,000. 19 of them are still active, so only 11 of them pended. So we're talking about inventory is still kind of low, but things are still moving.
Now, that was Fishers?
That was Fishers. And actually, days on market went down a little bit. It went down to 21 days on market, and there's 143 total. So, the numbers that I did this week, it's really interesting. talked about it before. In Noblesville, my days on market went way, way, way down. But it's because some houses that were included in that last week were houses that have been sitting for a significant amount of time, whereas the ones that pended this week, because that's all I'm told. I'm looking at what the average days on market for everything that pended in the last week, right? And so we just tried. I think the benefit is that we keep everything very finite on a week-to-week basis, and so it changes. So the stuff that pended this week had just been pretty short on the market.
You got to take the numbers over a longer haul. You can't a 1 week number, and we give them to you all the time, so we know this. But a 1 week number can get skewed because
it can,
because houses
literally
that are on the market,
one or two houses could affect it.
One house whose owner had a very different motivation, might have been sitting out there for 194 days, might suddenly go under contract, and that skews the numbers tremendously. But
absolutely,
here's
it's a good pulse, but it's so finite it can almost be not misleading.
You need a bigger sample.
So that's Fishers. Let's go to Noblesville, and then we're going to move it over to Greg.
So Noblesville had 26 go on the market, anywhere from 169,000 to 1.2 million, right? 18 of them are still active. Only 8 of those actually pended last week, which is actually a pretty low number. There's 130 total on the market, and the average days on market is 14 days on market, right? But that just goes back to the point of some stuff had been sitting and stuff like that. So probably what we should do, so we do the weekly pendeds. And
we got to do it monthly.
We should do at the end of the month and be like, this is what the month looked like.
Right. Okay. Greg, let's talk about your area, please, this week.
So in Carmel, we've got 133 homes that are currently active on the market. And here's the dirty little secret that no one will tell you. The homes
secret?
It is a dirty little secret because so many people, not everybody, I'll back up from that. So many people think that things are still flying and flying and flying. Here's the deal. The active homes in Carmel, 133 of them, they've been on the market, the active homes, an average of 59 days. The ones that went from list to contract last week, in other words, they pended, were only on the market 22 days. You have got to get your product right. Strategy, pricing, staging better be right. Because if you sit 59 days, folks, you've lost your hand. You've lost leverage.
Yep.
That's really what it comes down to. And here's the other thing. So inventory is not going up in Carmel. We had 22 new listings last week. We had 40 penned. We're at 18 fewer listings today than we were a week ago, and it went down a week ago. So the inventory is more robust. I mean, we had 28 houses for sale in June. So the industry had 133 homes for sale, 133 homes for sale. It's better than it was, but it's still very volatile, and it's not set because there's a lot of money that streams into these communities, Fishers, Noblesville, Westfield, and Carmel, because they're very desirable places to live. So when you hear inventory is going up everywhere, it's not. It's really as simple as that.
Okay.
And even it's seasonal. I mean, there's so much that goes into holidays. Like there's just so much that goes into why more goes on the market one week than another week.
Yep.
Well, hey, if anybody wants to know what's going on, if you want to get a price on your home, you want to find out what the value of it is, or you're looking to buy a home, give us a call. And I've got everybody on the list at 317-480-4115. We're going to have everybody put their numbers out there for the agents themselves. But this show has been brought to you by 2 companies, Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, which is moving here to Carmel, Indiana. And you can get a hold of us at 317-480-4115. Ask for Tony. And the second thing, Executive Portfolio Magazine, which is print advertising, and they're selling some pages because some agents are going in there showing what they got, and it's a great magazine for the greater Indianapolis area and Hamilton County and Boone and Hendricks County. Mm-hmm. Okay, if you had any words of wisdom for somebody buying or selling, what would it be this week, Kyle?
It's all about the timeline. Don't rush to just get on the market. Make sure you get it right. I mean, I was just out edging and weed eating, and I got a mulch this week, all these things, just so the pictures look good. Everything looks good, too. I would rather spend an extra 2 weeks getting it ready than sit an extra 30 days, like Greg was saying. Like it just matters that much to actually pay attention to your timeline and not rush into listing.
Okay, and how could somebody get a hold of you?
317-649-5122.
And what company do you work for?
It's Morris Property Group with FC Tucker.
Okay. And Greg, what's the words of wisdom on your side of the world?
Take pictures of your house outside right now.
Oh, yeah. I saw that you were saying that. That is...
Take your pictures right. Yes. It's going to be orange and red in 3 weeks. Take pictures of your home right now. I don't need it, Greg. I'm not moving. Well, guess what? If you get transferred to Atlanta in January, you're going to be the only one with summer pictures. Take pictures of your house outside right now. Email them to yourself on a Google email and keep them.
Oh, I mean, even when somebody pulls up the photos of it, because we did that on a couple houses this year that we know we're not listening to a little bit later.
It's a really good piece of advice.
When you're looking in November, December, and you see bright, warm colors, it creates emotion and people want to go see to it.
What company do you work for?
I'm a part of Compass of Indiana, Tony, but thank you for asking.
And what's your phone number too, Greg? Let's have the phone number.
317-441-7166.
Okay. Hey, everybody, thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next week on Stats in Indianapolis, and we'll have some builder news for you. Thank you, everybody.
Holly here, and thank you for listening to this week's podcast. Next week, we are talking about new home construction, actual inventory for sale, and almost ready to move in. Want to contact one of our professional real estate agents on our weekly podcast? Call 317-480-4115. Thank you to Kyle Morris with FC Tucker, Shelly Walters with eXp Realty, Justin Griffith with Keller Williams, and Greg Cooper with Compass Real Estate. This podcast has been sponsored by Executive Portfolio Magazine. Go to www.executiveportfolio.com to see this month's digital magazine.